Hey guys, it's Matt. I finally tried to turn the quote half page into a presentation, and it just can't be a half page. If I was writing it to myself, which I did, I know what I mean, but there's too many things that need to be explained, and it doesn't work in a half page. Although, if we were on the exact same page, it does work in a half page. Those on YouTube and try to make existence and reality and what we're here to do for ourselves complicated, those people, in my opinion, those books, those tomes, it's all part of the deception. Once you see it, it is a half page. It just can't be described. So this is about 3 pages, and it is, I just don't think I could cut it back any further because there are different types of people here. And when I start this, it sounds very definitive. I'm very sure of myself. It almost comes across, in many cases, it does come across as arrogant. And I'm trying to deflect that right here by saying, guys, remember, I think I have a lot of good ideas over the years. I've brought some observations into our truth community over the years, things I'm happy to take credit for. But in the last few years, I've told you, I am a tremendous sponge or disseminator of information. I will show you in a few videos coming up some of the incredible insights that people send to me or push back on me when I'm presenting something a certain way. So it's not just me. If I'm making this presentation and I'm rather sure of myself, I don't want it to appear arrogant. This is not just me talking. It's the collection of hundreds upon hundreds of the smartest people that have ever existed, that have found a way to communicate with me and shape my beliefs, and I'm just good at putting it all together. On the other side of the coin, I want every part of this to be challenged, almost attacked. It has to hold up to every single challenge. It has to hold up to every single attack to have merit. This could be weeks or months going forward. People saying, no, Matt, this is wrong. Okay, I hear you, but this section is completely wrong, and here's why. And we'll go back and forth. This isn't the final. I'm open to changing this, of course. I want it to be challenged and attacked. That's the next phase. Now, if it can hold up to the challenges of some extremely smart people, then there's something here, and we're very, very close. Okay, starting with the preface, which will, I guess, right off the bat start pissing people off. This presentation is not associated with any religion. I personally don't believe that choosing the right God presented amongst the world's major religions and just getting it right is the meaning of life. Not for me, anyway. I think the best parts of any religion, though, exist to help people work on themselves, not to provide a Willy Wonka golden ticket for picking the right religion or for a judge at the end of the day to decide on winners and losers. That's just my personal belief set. I'm not trying to piss anybody off. What follows is obviously my personal opinion, so I'm going to forgo words like I keep saying all the time, like, I think this is so, or this is likely the case. I'm not going to attach that sort of apology to each statement. It is written definitively, and it's presented with a degree of certainty. So just keep this in mind. I don't mean it to come across as arrogant, but a constant insertion of I think, and in my opinion, it's removed for brevity, just to keep it under so many pages. It was supposed to be a half page, but this is as short as I possibly can make it. The following is not a 1.25 speed exercise. It's the culmination of everything I've ever looked at and the culmination of every single smart email that has ever been sent to me in any way I've ever been communicated with, all amalgamated into one presentation. If you're Jupiter Jones cleaning the toilet, finish cleaning the toilet, sit back and relax. I'm going to be slower than I normally go, and the jokes will be kept to a minimum. This life is a temporary experience inside a larger immortality. The atheist position is so absurd, it's not even worth talking about. This earth reality is a spiritual game of sorts. A part of you, or if you prefer, an aspect of you, is not here in this place. It's somewhere else. Consciousness being derived from a pile of cholesterol inside brain tissue, to me, is absurd. Consciousness evolving from a monkey, and before that, consciousness coming from a giant explosion in space, is absurd. Neurologists are still looking for the little guy calling the baseball game inside the old radio. This aspect of you agreed to come here into this place we call Earth before you were born. It wanted to dip its pinky into the water, and your first person conscious perspective is its pinky. The experience doesn't work without a complete loss of memory as to what you were before birth. Let me say that again. The experience and whatever is to be accomplished here does not work if you have an understanding of what you were. All the YouTube doom and gloom videos about being tricked to come in here and now we're trapped, it's all bullshit. There are two or many, many more different types of entities here on this game board Earth. We're going to focus on the two major groups. There's people like us, and then there's a population of creeps and minions who are playing a role here. Their role is to lie, deceive, and generally screw everybody that's real here over. But here's the kicker. Their role, the role of the creeps, is essential. And in the end, game winners like you and I actually benefit from their creepy ways because this is necessary to help us understand ourselves. The creeps work here. They just work here, like Warden Norton at Shawshank and Captain Hadley. Andy is you. Andy climbed through a river of shit and came out clean on the other side. To me, it's almost certain that Melvin P., Bill, Governor Cuomo, Ellen, and creatures of that nature are not fundamentally the same as you and I. At a spiritual level, or however you want to describe it, they are not the same. If anybody's at all is trapped here, they are. How much they know about their role here and how they play their role to fulfill what reality is all about, who knows? Who cares? It's fun to ponder. Does Obama really understand what he's doing? And at what level do people have an understanding close to the screen? We'll ponder it, and it's fun, but it's immaterial, pointless. We don't need to know. It's pointless to know that type of information for what we're here to do for ourselves in this life. For now, we'll just say, the Melvin P's and the Bezoses of the world, the Lady Gagas, perhaps the Ellens, Oprahs, and Bruce Springsteens are some sort of different class of entity or a different type of incarnation. I don't care to know anymore. Just care to know about myself. But what do they do? What is their role? The entire outward presentation of reality that comes through these creeps is a multi-level deception and one that breeds endless conspiracy, endless weird things to look into in a way that no natural world could pull off. Almost everything here is an inversion without most people noticing. How does that happen? Now, if this is not reality giving itself away by the characteristics that we've been noticing over the past 10 years or so, I don't know what is. Everything's a deception. Everything's a manipulation and lie. Nobody ever gets caught. Nobody is ever found out. The pendulum never swings back in the other direction towards a win for us. It's reality giving itself away, and it's time to leave all that bullshit behind. Everything that comes from the outer edges of the screen, everything from the screen through the minions is a trick. The game is very simple. It makes a loud, obnoxious presentation that attempts to get you and other real spiritual beings, tries to get your attention and then to pull in your emotion and get you involved in its shit and its ridiculous presentation, all to hide you from understanding your true nature. It's a matador with a red cape and you're the bull. It's that simple. To hide you from yourself, it desperately needs you and other real spiritual beings to believe in its society that it presents, in its culture, and in its own gods that it created. Doesn't mean religion. Bruce Springsteen is put forth as a god, isn't he? Every time a real person genuinely focuses and gives real interest in the outward reality in terms of the bullshit presentation that it's laying down, and especially when you pour forth your emotion into it, your worry, your anxiety, your fear, your stress, your anger, do that, and the outward reality, the minions, the screen, the not milk, whatever you want to name it, it gets a point, you lose a point. However, while we live in this period of history inside of a fake construct called time, we have to, for the most part, to a degree, play its game because we need to collect money and we need to eat. We need to survive. That's not asking too much. We have to play its game to a degree. Okay, that's fine. That doesn't take points away. At this moment in history, its tentacles and its institutions are so massive, so far reaching, that you have to play with it a bit. It can't be avoided. This is okay. It's just the current characteristics of the game in this time period. Mario, Donkey Kong, remember Mario? Mario must adapt to the Donkey Kong level that is currently being played. The barrels are rolling at him. He must jump. Can't just walk out of the game into Frogger. He's here now. We're here now. Very similar. We don't have to be perfect, in my opinion, but we must, as soon as we get this realization, we must, with intention, step off its treadmill, the treadmill of the fake society, and step onto the correct path. Whatever you want to call it. Robert Frost, the Two Paths Diverged, all truth drops all over the place. Dancing with Wolves, Tatanka, Sazette Tutanka. I'm glad to see you're now on the path of a real human being. This message is everywhere. We are doing it, or you wouldn't be listening to this. Unfortunately, how many people around us are? It's a very simple example. There's something in Philadelphia down here called the Franklin Institute with a big planetarium I remember going to as a kid. So you can work for the Franklin Institute Planetarium because you got to get a paycheck and get the benefits and eat and feed your kid. Okay, but if you use it, it uses you. This is kind of where we are in 2022. The reality to a degree can't be avoided. But here's where you go too far and you're falling for the trick. If you or somebody truly believes that, associated with the Franklin Institute Planetarium, studying a distant pulsar, studying what's happening in that far out reaches of the Oort cloud, that's so important to your life, and assigning your what you believe you accomplish in life to that sort of study, an outward study of the screen, you've lost that round of the game. So what you do is less important than your intentions, your beliefs in it, the energy you put into it. And it's, again, into the outer presentation of the screen reality that's being orchestrated by minions. Without truly believing in it and giving it the energy, which is assigned via the emotions and the fear and the stress and things like that, then that. I mean, we have to wake up and go to work, but it's that other part that creates the attachment. Every bit of real focused energy on the outward reality or the screen presentation, where a real spiritual being assigns their self-worth or their importance to society's presentation, that to me is a loss of a round. What's worse is if you really bite its hook and you put forth that emotion, your greatest energies, you assign that to it, and you give that to the outer reality theater and the screen presentation. For example, one of a million examples, I hate those Democrats. And Matt likes to say, I can't stand that Lawrence O'Donnell. Even that, then you're giving it, or I've given it, what it feeds on. It can't do what it needs to do itself. It needs you and people like me and real people like you to harden its cement on its perverted projects. And it needs us to make its blurry images clear and to bring those images into reality. It can't do it on its own. Our opponents, the creeps, the minions, and the hijacked parts of the reality itself that I've named Not Nilk, they're like the Event Horizon ship in the movie. Somehow, it can put forth a custom-made distraction for each real person based on what you want and expect to find. Now, no real world could do this time after time, could keep pulling this off time after time. It gives itself away. It's unnatural. It's impossible. This Earth game board is about 99% less real than we were led to believe it is. It's some sort of fluid dream of sorts. It can morph, it can change. It's driven by individual and collective consciousness. And look around at your neighbors or your friends or your family or the people down the end of the Thanksgiving table. It's driven now by a collective consciousness which is mostly fooled and manipulated. If these people would understand a few basic things, then our circumstances here could change very quickly. Just understanding that mind came first, consciousness, mind came first. A giant explosion or a monkey did not come first. I'm not going to insert the NPC discussion here. The fooled masses, no matter how real or not they are, they may be the same as you and I, they may not be. There could be locally animated background characters here in this thing called Earth. We don't know. I mean, groups of people may go march and protest or participate in politics as fooled role players, just so you follow along and are fooled alongside the role players who were designed to play the fool, so you'd follow them, if that makes any sense. Don't worry about it. We're here to worry about ourselves. WOI, about yourself. Worry about yourself. You think that wasn't going to be in this presentation? Worrying about, and I don't even like the word worry, but hey, we've been using it. Worrying about understanding yourself, of course, means all the little details of how things work here don't matter. The elements. Who, what, when, where, why, and how are the creeps doing this, Matt? Who, what, when, where, how, and why struck the Pentagon? Doesn't matter. None of it matters. Every reality, a conspiracy investigation can only serve you if the bog you've jumped in, and we've all jumped in the bog, almost all truthers are still up in the bog, up to their neck in quicksand, it can only serve you, all that work, if you eventually climb out of the bog. While in the bog, this research becomes completely pointless and is actually part of reality's trick. It's actually part of reality's pissed on yellow breadcrumb distraction. We know that now. It's confirmed. There are millions of game scenarios it plays out to get the attention of real people. And it also is dying to collect up your emotion, which ties you even further to it, creating what I call Jacob Marley chains and general attachments. Whether you're a consequences or no consequences person, does it seem like the reality itself, or the hijack portion, which is manipulated by the creeps and the minions, does it seem like it wants you to create attachments to it? Of course, that's what it wants. There's a reason it works for that. We don't truly understand it. All we need to understand is how to separate from it. Further research into Tartaria and its 10,000 other presentations that it endlessly, impossibly generates, this is just its interest in it, energy into it, so it's attachment to it. The shape of the Earth investigation, whether this realm lies in a crater, what the mud flood is. This, we know now, is playing the game it wants you playing. Via more research on these topics, you've not exposed anything. It's just the opposite. It tempts you with a win if you just look into it further. It's a false game. You've taken the breadcrumbs it has pissed on, and you have eaten them. The more you investigate conspiracy, the further you move away from truth, core fundamental truth. And what is core fundamental truth? What happens on the screen? Who is actually Obama? Is he the same as you and me? What happened to the side of the Pentagon? Core fundamental truth, and the only thing that matters is what you are. That's it. Nothing else matters. Whether this reality has spiritual consequences or not, depending on the choices one makes in life, is irrelevant, because the spiritual being that becomes aware of itself will make the same choice either way, will make the, quote, correct choice or the moral choice despite the presence of consequences. A real spiritual entity beginning to understand itself is not going to go join the Sopranos in order to have the experience of what it's like to torture somebody in a chair while you pull their fingernails off. Nobody's going to go do that. So whether there are spiritual consequences associated with living life or not, to me, is irrelevant. Whether they exist or not, consequences don't drive the behavior of real people. Now, back to what I said earlier, I agree that the analogy of winning a point or losing a point in a game as the way I kind of had to present it, that does imply consequence. But no one would say we're here for no reason, right? Would even the most strictest of no consequences, spiritually no consequences for, say, living life the wrong way, would those no consequences people say we're here for no reason at all? I doubt they would say that. You just came into Earth for no reason at all. I think they would even say there was a reason, even if it was just to have fun. That's a reason. If a reason for being here on Earth exists, a consequence of some kind must exist by definition. The no consequences people are simply adamant, and this is a good point that they make. They're adamant that one cannot damn their soul or damn their spirit or Horcrux off their spirit, or doom themselves to the spiritual abyss by a consequence, or by an action or a choice, by taking a shot in the arm, or by even being in The Sopranos. The no consequences people say the core essence of you is protected. Your higher self or God or whatever your belief system is would not have put you here if you could flush your spiritual self down the toilet into the way the Pope described the abyss. So in that regard, they're protected. But I might go a little too far. Again, remember what I said. If unless we're here for no reason, then by definition, there's some sort of consequence. Even if you came in here to have fun. Well, if you didn't have fun, that's the consequence of making poor choices. You didn't have fun. I'm going to end the consequences, no consequences debate inside this presentation because it could go on forever. I've come way further closer to the smart arguments that the no consequences people have made. And I understand now why the no consequences people, when I made the presentation 3 years ago about soul tokens, they don't like that. And I understand now why they don't like that. And I'm again moved way down the sliding scale towards them. You know, the soul token concept. This reality is out to get you to give pieces of yourself away, or will you collect up and make your light grow brighter? And the no consequences people come along and say, Matt, look, your higher self, whatever you would have never been put in a situation where you can just give your core parts of your essence away. So you go down what the Pope Francis said. If anybody not familiar said, well, bad souls, let me clarify, Pope Francis said, bad souls don't go to hell. They go to the abyss. They just go to nothing. And the no consequences people are like, you would never, you or an aspect of yourself or an aspect of your higher self, God, whatever, would have never put you in a situation where you can give the most important parts of yourself away. Now, I've come around to that, and I'm not going to use the soul token presentation anymore. They've made excellent points, but it's not all or none. That does not mean there are no consequences. One more time, even if you came in here, the Alan Watts, half of his presentations are like, we were bored as immortal beings. We came in to have fun, even if that's what it's all about. If you didn't have fun, that's a consequence. Let's move on. Observing the creep class, or the minions, they play the game in a way where it seems like they have something to win. Don't they play that way? That's why I'm kind of wary about this. It seems like they play the game in a matter where they have something to win, even if it's to make sure their own existence perpetuates, because they may need our conscious intention to perpetuate their own existence. That's a pretty big penalty if we ever decide to change the rules of the game. So it's just something to be wary of. For example, what you believe at the moment of death, smart people say, may be what you manifest on yourself. At the moment of death, do you take in karma with you? I should have done this. Regret, fear, some archonic being is going to come and play a trick on me. What do you carry into the moment of death? A lot of smart people think you'll manifest exactly what you believe as you carry forth death. Again, needing to do it to yourself. If you spend years and years investigating Saturn moon matrix, recycling back all sorts of tricks at death, you could be facilitating that very scenario. If you believe you're a sinner and you're going to hell, well, guess what you may manifest on yourself? This game seems stacked. It seems rigged to benefit the creeps. Seems one-sided to benefit the side of Oprah and of Santa Claus Schwab. But it's not stacked in their favor. Once you see it for what it is, it's really not. For what we need to do for ourselves, it's actually stacked in our favor. That's the way I see it. The more you expect to be shown, or demand to be shown, all the winning pieces, and believe or know they're all around you, you just have to see it, then the reality will actually start to show you the clues. Whether the clues is an inflated tire, mistakes on purpose, a repeating number that you see, or even the 911 in the clock, whatever it may be, numbers in a license plate, or you get a spiritual message from a song that speaks only to you, what Vanessa VA calls the retrocausality language, or a truth drop in a movie that potentially was not intended by the movie makers. These incredible, quote, clues are all around us once we open ourselves up to seeing them. Once we open ourselves up to seeing them, the floodgates go down, and then it's stacked in our favor, not in the creeps' favor. The creeps can't prevent these, quote, winning puzzle pieces from swimming all around you every time you get up in the morning. The creeps may actually plant the number 33, as they do, to train us, to deceive us, to ignore the powerful messages and the gematria and the way the underlying, or the good parts of the underlying reality, talk to us, to show us who we really are. What's the truth community set up to do? Oh, here's a story. This person died, was 33. Oh, that's the creeps number. Ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. They've really Pavlov's dogged us in terms of these numbers. Oh, that's their number. And they've trained us not to see what these numbers really are. As one backs up their perspective and looks down on the aspects of themselves that's in this earth reality. So they go further and farther back, looking down on themselves. This gets into the perspective of the game player. Then there's another observer. We've all heard that, okay? As you back up, the situation for real spiritual beings just gets better and better and better, like the clues swimming all around us. Back your perspective up from number one. We talked about a few videos back. Number one to number two. Number one is exactly what they want and what they get out of most, quote, they're assigned human beings. Human beings they've conditioned to trying to just desperately find their spiritual selves. Finding out who they are must be out there on the screen somewhere, or in some tome somewhere, or in some massive religion. It's groveling from the perspective of first-person consciousness, groveling before many masters, hoping to be rewarded by being told who they really are. That they want us stuck in number one. Number two is you back up far enough and see exactly what's going on. It's very simple. Just a immortal, massive spiritual being having a human experience. Is your perspective first person? Like you're stuck in that Sims video game or some first-person shooter? Or is it third person, not from 6 feet under, but looking from 6 feet above down on the experience, not forgetting that other aspect? I mean, where do they want our perspective stuck? Of course, in number one. We just have to decide we're going to take on perspective number two and train ourselves to do that. Remember, for it, the creeps, the screen, the not milk, for it to succeed, it must be believed in. It must be taken seriously. It must be taken SIRIUSLY. It loves to see the puny human searching through the esoteric, occult, and arcane text, begging to find an answer when it's already inside of you. There are many possibilities to ponder that are not really suited to this summary, and they're fun to ponder. We'll continue to do it, such as the creep class is Minions and Creeps and Melvin P. They're actually a reflection of ourselves in some manner, and they need to be believed in. They need our beliefs and our energy for their very existence, or they're snuffed out. I mean, of course, all of this is on the table as possible. We'll talk about it and ponder it, but it's not. There's no reason to do that sidebar here. It's just not. It's not material to you understanding yourself. The only thing that seems to power the creeps is the complete belief in their reality presentation at the fundamental and root level by real people. You get rid of that and they may go poof real quick, or who knows what would happen. They need all the, quote, news and all the history books, and they need authority to be believed in by at least a certain percentage of real people, NPCs or whatever. We don't know. Most real people are not in our camp. We say real spiritual beings. Most of these people are fooled. Look at your family, your friends. I mean, only a few real people are talking about the types of things we're talking about. You know, these creeps thus far, I cannot tell a lie. They've done a heck of a job on people. We know, though, they haven't won because they work so darn hard to maintain the illusion. We know they have not won, as I've said many times, because they work so hard getting up in your business. You think I was going to go without that one? The creeps are all hands on dick, 24/7, 365, in pushing out their endless amount of fraud onto real people. how hard, no pun intended, they have to work is great news for you and me. Now that we realize certain things, it doesn't matter how good or bad their magic show is anymore. To us, it's all fake. It's all a giant, stinky, stuffed rabbit being pulled out of a decrepit hat. Winning is simply cutting through the noise and sifting through the static and coming to the realization of what you already know deep down. That's it. Isn't it going to be in a book somewhere or from listening to this guru preach about this and that? And I'm just telling you what you already know. Matt, aren't you preaching? No. I'm just telling what you already know and how to cut through the noise to find it. The first step in winning is pretty simple. It's just no longer playing its game. It's the end of the movie War Games. And tell the Matador to take that red cape and take your red cape, Mr. Matador, shove it straight up your ass. What's that from? 16? No, Weird Science. Give me the whole bottle. But anyway, on your deathbed, if you look up, and many people will, if you look up on that scoreboard and it's a giant Jerry Jones LCD Texas Stadium display and it shows you played its game on its field, but it shows that scoreboard, that slimy, dripping with black goo scoreboard is showing that you're ahead in the game. It shows you have a tremendous amount of points and you won by playing on its field. Well, you lost. If you've been awarded its MVP or, for example, won a Nobel Prize, you're a California three strikes loser, spiritually. But if you're here with me now, you're pretty close to winning or you've already won. You've shed the illusion already. That means you're pretty darn close. Maybe a few more things we need to do for ourselves. But of course, in the end of the day, it's all very simple. Anybody, again, one more time, in a book on YouTube that presents complicated is part of the deception. They'll say, Matt, you just don't understand it, so you write it off as think whatever you want. I am convinced that it is very simple because that's exactly how it presents itself. Once you see how simple it is, then it just resonates with all your inner knowing. So our job is to play the real game that's here, to find the real game and to play the real game. The real game is hidden. And we're asked to forego the real game and to play the sick perversion that's put in our face, put up in our business every day. Society and culture, through this reality, fools most people into playing the fake game. Very early on, this reality and its society and its screen gets a hold of the young mind to shape it into something that will eventually grow up and feed it. And think of what it can do to the young person today versus what it could do to me and many of you. It started with us in kindergarten watching some TV, PBS or whatever we had. Wasn't that intrusive? Now they place like an iPhone 99 into the hands of a 6-month-old. I mean, oh boy, that the young generation today has more to overcome, no doubt about it, than we did. But either way, it starts as early as it can onto the deception, the tricks, the mind control. And then once that, quote, human being matures, it shoves the cue cards into its hand and it pushes it out on stage with its pants down, just hoping that it has done its job enough where that human being will end up feeding it what it needs to survive or the energy or the attention that it needs for the rest of that human being's natural life. All that human being has to do is see the basic deception and stop feeding it and walk off the damn stage. This goes without saying, but unfortunately, look around at your family and friends. Most people we know, and many of these people are real spiritual beings the way we are, they are so eager to run out onto its playing field and then to grovel for its rewards and its scraps that it throws under the table. Worry about yourself. Not everybody was meant to win at this time. The notion of old souls, young souls, souls ready to graduate, souls that have had enough talking to their higher self saying, we've done this, we're not doing this again, we're walking out of here. There's all merit to this. Not everybody's going to win together. Some people have more work to do. It's okay. You have to get everybody or, quote, wake everybody up. That does not work. Worry about yourself. But you would think actually more people would wake up because those out on its field playing its game, are they fulfilled? Are they fulfilled? Senior partner in the law firm going into their deathbed they have 3 beach homes. They have 40,000 employees. Are they fulfilled? No. But most people that play its game, and almost everybody around us, of course, plays its game, they're not fulfilled, but for some reason they continue to play. I mean, how stupid. Why would you think you're going to be fulfilled on a Tuesday if you weren't fulfilled on a Monday? I mean, so guess what is fulfilling? To step out and then to find the real game that's here. Oh my gosh, look at this game. Oh, it's so fulfilling. And you know you've won the real game because, your whole. I cut wood. What was it? When was it freezing cold? Was it Sunday? Snow all over the ground? I could not take the smile off my face. It was just that beautiful sun on the snow. It was almost so bright you couldn't even. It was so fulfilling. I'm becoming strange like that. Like the most a butterfly lands on the back of my hand, and it's like the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But this is the real game. As weird as that sounds, I'm not doing a good job describing it. If you know you're involved in the real game, just to be in the game, then you've won. Could it be that simple? Yes, it could be. If you're playing the real game, there is no scoreboard. There is no referees running around in a black and white. There is no judges. By definition, if you're playing the real game, then everybody wins. I know that kind of is reminiscent. Everybody gets a trophy, but you know what I mean. So most of you know all of this already. I mean, you come here because I summarize it pretty good, and maybe it's a little entertaining. But there's some guy out there, some girl out there that's like, wait a second. There's a fake game and a real game. Almost everybody's involved in the fake game. All I have to do is not that brass ring that keeps coming around. Just say, F it. I don't care about the damn brass ring. Just step off the carousel, go find the real game. And then once I play the real game, I'll know it. I'll just know it because my inner knowing and everything inside me will tell me I'm playing the real game. And then I've won. Yeah. It takes a little while to understand it's that simple. And there's some guy out there from Skokie, but it is that simple. So once you have your inner knowing start talking to you, it will tell you everything you need to know. Let's just end on a few examples related to this whole truth pursuit. Let's just see what the inner knowing has to say about the following now that we have it really tuned in. So how dumb does this sound? Upon death, what light must I choose to jump into to win? Tibetan Book of the Dead tells me one thing. This book tells me something else. Like, to win, the only way to win is to know what light to jump into. Come on, man. It's all everything you've done on earth, everything you've learned, spiritual. It's all going to depend on what light you reject or jump into. Come on, what does your inner knowing tell you about that bullshit? I'm not saying there's a group of really nasty characters playing a trick, and who knows how far their tricks can extend. But do you think you have to grovel before it, or do you believe you have a power? If you just take a step back and say, wait a second, if there is a trick, you have the power to overcome it so easily. I mean, what is all the work in this life for? None of that will extend into death. We'll just have another mind wipe at death, and just, oh boy, which light do I jump into? Come on, it's ridiculous. All this stuff's probably, it gets you so you manifest all these dark things onto yourself. I mean, everything is manifested from the individual and collective consciousness. This is a similar question coming up, but another inner knowing example. See what your inner knowing says to you. And if your inner knowing starts laughing hysterically, then we're all kind of on the same page. So how many books do I need to read to choose what light to go into to escape the recycle of samsara and prison planet? In other words, even if it exists, thinking you thinking somebody has the answer in a book. I mean, come on. Even if some of these tricks exist, okay? I'm no expert. I never had no near-death experience, but to think that somebody has it solved in a book somewhere, I mean, come on. What a waste of prepare yourself for whatever, but to go think the answer, there's no answers out there in some lecture or some book. Give me a break. Matt, what are you saying? I mean, won't I find the answer and the key to unlock what I need in the 20,000 hours of Manly P. Hall lectures? No. If I just endlessly dive into the complexity gobbledygook of Nietzsche and isn't that high level self-actualization, and won't that give me the path out of here, assuming this is a prison planet? No. that will actually act as a gigantic cinder block on your head to push you further and further down into the quicksand. Complete nonsense and intellectual roundabout waste of times like Friedrich Nietzsche. You know, I love talking about this, so I'm just going to do a few minutes before I present the final summary. Whether it be, Nietzsche's the latest thing I'm getting into, and somebody's rising up screaming at me. It's just because you're too dumb to understand it. I always say the same thing, but think what you want. I mean, give me all this complexity, all of these occult and esoteric and arcane books and tomes, and it's part of the deception that's crafted to the certain type of intelligent person searching for truth, that the level of fooling someone, or the level of the trick, just extends like an elevator ride up to the level for the person that's searching for the truth that is still able to be fooled. The only way to do it is say that it's just the end of war games. The only winning move is not to play. Take the elevator back down, walk off. It's always going to tempt you with the carrot on the stick. These esoteric texts are ridiculous, and they don't give you jack shit. We know inside of us the answer is simple. The reality tells you, the reality gives itself away because everything is so complicated. It's so hard to figure out. Then what's the answer? Then it has to be simple, or it wouldn't present itself in such a complicated fashion. And this gets into reality unnaturally giving itself away, into how many potentially tens of thousands of answers there are in tens of thousands of esoteric and arcane texts. Even, I like Levette. I just got to keep it real. She did the best she could. She found a source of this occult information at her own expense. I know she spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars mailing out these thumb drives. And somebody told me that I got a thumb drive from Levette with all this stuff you can't get on the internet anymore. Well, Matt, because you can't get it on the internet, doesn't that mean it has real truth? Not when it's presented like this. 10,000 or something, somebody told me. I'll be conservative. 5,000 gigantic PDFs to read, 5,000 white papers on occult this and understanding this and esoteric works, and 5,000 things to read, and you got to sift through all that for the answer. I'm sorry, if you back up just a little ways and look down on it, that type of complexity is part of the deception. When I say I'm too dumb to understand it, say I'm too dumb to understand it. To me, it's crystal clear, the game that reality plays, that it suits or it fits its pissed on breadcrumb. It puts just the right flavor on top of its yellow to get a person at the right intellectual level to take its bait. And that's all this stuff is, these endless tomes and texts, a complete waste of time. If this was such a spiritual prison planet where we're just screwed, and you come, no matter what your belief system is, the Hindus believe thousands and thousands of recycles, and Buddhists thousands and thousands of recycles. And if we're so screwed to recycle back, why do they, the creeps, or the reality itself, or the hijack portion, why does it work so hard in life to get you to do a certain thing, to get you to fall for a certain trick, to get you to put your energy and emotion in a certain thing? Why does it work so hard? It knows, doesn't it just say to itself that, everybody chooses the wrong light at death? Like 99.999 or whatever percent of people, they just choose the wrong light and they come back anyway. We don't have to do anything while they're alive. Why do they work so hard when we're alive to exercise the trick when everybody supposedly just picks the wrong light and has to come right back? Does that make any sense to you? See, I love the fact that they have to work so hard. And if they have to work hard here, then they probably have to work really hard if they want to extend their trick upon death. Am I missing something? Or is this just this fallacy logic that doesn't make any sense? It's so basic. I don't know why this community struggles with this. It's just we always resort back to the same circular reasoning. They're working hard, guys. Everybody's just screwed and has to come back. Jared Kushner and his crew would take time off. They don't. But still, if this topic concerns you, I would say follow the good advice given in the Interface series. One of my favorite parts of the Interface series, as strange as that was, says all lost souls remain on Earth. They fail to go as they came. That's very interesting to me. All lost souls remain on Earth. They fail to go as they came. So if there is any light, is this how I came here? Is this how I came into my mother's womb? Well, I should be able to figure out how I got here. We'll just take the same path back. I love that advice and internet interface. And that assumes that any of this light stuff's real anyway. Just go as you came. Nobody thinks of that. Matt, you can't go back up through your mother's womb. I didn't say physically. Spiritual doors, Danny Zuko, spiritual doors. We'll close with the biggest truth drop movie of all time. How did Dorothy get to Oz? Is anybody saying a tornado? Really? No, Oz was in her mind or where she spiritually went. She took herself to Oz. It wasn't no damn tornado. Okay? That's for people, that's for popcorn crunchers in the movie. She took herself to Oz, so as we saw in the very end, it was always within her to get herself back. Anybody making the parallel between us and Dorothy? Yeah, it's all within our power right now. We don't have to go to no Glenda. We don't have to grovel before no Good Witch of the East or no Chubby Cheeks Glenda. We don't need no ruby slippers. She was told she had to seek a wizard, and everything she needed was out there. That's what Dorothy, and she played the game like most people play in this reality. We have to seek the wizard. We have to grovel before it. We have to go satisfy this part of reality and that part of reality. And we have to get away from the Munchkins before they hump our leg. We have to do all this crap here. But no, you have to see no wizard, have to fight no witch. It's all within your power. Dorothy could go back when she didn't. Matt, she needed the ruby slippers. No, she didn't. No, she didn't. That Glenda doesn't say, good thing you have those ruby slippers still. She doesn't need them. We don't need them. Everything that Dorothy did in the land of Oz was a false pursuit. It's an analogy for this life. And just to demonstrate that even people on the right path and people inside the truth community, many of us still have some work to do. There's a whole group in the back of the Amish classroom rising up trying to tell me right now that, Matt, you're misinterpreting The Wizard of Oz. Don't you know that Frank F. Baum or J. Scott Fitzgerald F. Baum or whatever his name was, he was really making a statement about real money. Real money. And didn't you know, Matt, that the ruby slippers in the book were actually silver, which is a statement about real money against the fiat system that Frank L. Baum or L. Scott Fitzgerald Baum was pushing forth. He knew that would become. What did I say about many different layers in things a few back? It's okay. Many of us still have some work to do. Wizard of Oz is not about real money when you see it at the right level. Thanks for listening.